All right. So just wanted to go through basically everything that my coaching involves, basically the process that I take every guy through from start to beginning. So first, I always start out with, I'd say about 80% of guys need this, an approach anxiety program. And the whole point of the approach anxiety program is to just get you to the point to where you can approach consistently. And I'm talking about in pretty much every scenario that you can think of. So we start off with doing really simple ones, asking for directions somewhere, going to a grocery store, asking where items are. And these simple ones are basically just to build the habit of just going up and talking to someone, literally just saying anything. All right. When I, learn any skill, whether it's for myself or I'm trying to coach someone, I always chunk things down and I just take it chunk by chunk, and each chunk builds on the previous one. So for the first couple weeks, it's literally just asking for directions, asking where items are, kind of different variations of that, just to get used to going up to a stranger and saying something, literally anything. And then some of the drills involve having a time limit. So you have to ask for directions, 3 times in 2 minutes or something like that. And that just gets you used to not waiting around all the time, not doing an approach and then overthinking it, waiting freaking 3 hours or whatever until you do the next one. 3 hours might be a little exaggeration, maybe 30 minutes or something like that. And then we work on tension. So after you can approach consistently, meaning just go up and say something, which is directions or items or something like that, and you pass the time limit ones, so where you don't waste a lot of time in between each one, then we add little bits of tension. So these are like purposeful misunderstandings, things that are maybe could be seen as slightly confrontational. So one little bit of tension is if you're asking where an item is, you say, hey, do you know where the peanut butter is? And then they'll say, oh yeah, it's over on, I think it's over on aisle 5. And then you say, are you sure it's there? Just that little bit of tension. It's like 10% confrontational. And it might seem like a small thing, but actually there's a lot of people that actually have trouble with that. And throughout the course of the program, there's just little bits of tension more added until you're fine with dealing pretty much any type of confrontation or tension that you would encounter during an approach. The program doesn't just get rid of approach anxiety. It puts you in a whole bunch of different situations that you would be put in approaching. So like approaching when there's a lot of people around, approaching where maybe a person thinks you're weird, or it's like an awkward approach. Just, it gets to the point where, like I said, you can approach in pretty much any scenario fairly consistently. So there's tension, there's audience. A big thing that guys have trouble with, I would say this is harder to get over, and it's a bigger problem than approach anxiety, is audience anxiety. So audience anxiety is not being able to do an approach or having anxiety around when there's a lot of people around and they could hear you and maybe they'll judge you or look at you or whatever. A lot of people, if conditions are optimal, they can eke out an approach, even if it's hard for them. And actually, I've known a lot of guys who are fairly good at approaching, and they actually approach semi-consistently, but they can only do it under very easy circumstances. Like girl is, we'll say, by herself, standing still, and she doesn't have any friends or anything with her. She doesn't have headphones on or on the phone. There's no one around. It's like a quiet place, like a bookstore or something like that. A lot of guys can somewhat easily get to the point where they can do those approaches consistently. But the ones that really kill guys, and the ones where most approaches take place, are ones where there are going to be people around. The girl is going to be walking, or she might be reading a book or on her phone or something like that. So the audience ones deal with the situations, the conditions under which most approaches actually take place, which is not that optimal, by herself doing nothing, there's no one around, blah, blah, blah. And then, so here, unique problems. So every guy has very specific problems with approaching. And it's not always necessarily this situation and this situation, it's beliefs they have. So one would be like, oh, I think it's weird, or I'm not cool enough or attractive enough, or, whatever. It's individual insecurities and mindsets that guys have. And I always ask guys before I even start a program some of their unique problems, and I incorporate that into the program. So I can't put any here because it's literally unique for every guy. And then towards the end, you do basically faux approaches, F-A-U-X, not F-O-E, where basically you do an approach, but there's all the stuff added onto it. So, you might start out, oh, hey, compliment, whatever. There's one of the drills where you say, hey, I'm not trying to hit on you, I have a girlfriend, but blah, blah, blah. And then you give a compliment. And then slowly you take away pieces until you're just giving a compliment. And then you go from, okay, giving the compliment and then saying, hey, what are you up to today? And then getting the number. And then by that point, that's basically an approach. And then you can go on to approaching. All right. So the next one is, once you can do that, then we start actually doing approaches. So at this point, when you start approaching, you're fine with approaching. Like, if you go through the entire program, I at least as of yet have not had a guy that went through the whole program and was not able to consistently approach afterwards. Like, it just covers literally every single freaking base. So starts approaching, and usually I have the guy send me recordings of some of the approaches, and we just chunk it down. I listen to his opener, and main thing I look for is the tonality. So not having upward tonality. Hi, I just thought you were cute. Hey, you're really cute, or hey, blah, blah, blah. If you want to go kind of indirect and just give them a compliment on something like, oh, damn, that jacket's really awesome, or whatever the fuck. A big one is guys front loading the opener. So instead of breaking it down and saying, hey, excuse me, hey, you're really cute, and then she'll say, oh, thank you, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, what do you got going on today? So a lot of guys, what they'll do is they will front load all of that. And it's because of anxiety. It's because, blah, 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 a whole bunch of reasons. So they'll go up and say, hey, excuse me, so I just saw you walking over there, and so I just wanted to come up and, I just thought you were cute, and I just wanted to know what you were doing. And they just front load everything. And obviously that comes off as very anxious. It also just overloads the girl. Like, you're giving her all these pieces of information at once. So I listen for that, and I have the guy break it up. Hey, excuse me, or hey, what's up, or hey, however you want to do it. Hey, excuse me. Pause, wait for her response. Give the compliment. You're really cute. Or your hair looks fucking amazing. Pause, wait for her response. Then, yeah, what are you up to today? And just continue the conversation. And then we work on direct and indirect. For most of my approaches, I go direct, but I actually have no problem with guys going indirect. The problem is that a lot of guys go indirect because they think direct is bad for some reason, or they think that they're just not confident enough to be able to go direct. Like, it just makes them really uncomfortable. And so I have it so that a guy can kind of do direct or indirect. It doesn't really matter. If you are confident and you come across well, you know how to have a good conversation, all that stuff, it actually really doesn't matter if you go direct or indirect. If everything else is lined up, you can go indirect. It's totally fine. I personally just like to go direct. The main reason for me is because not only is that most congruent, because that's why I'm fucking talking to you, because I want to fuck you. Obviously, I don't say, hey, let's fuck. But also, sometimes in a situation where it's like kind of hectic and maybe there's not that much time to actually do the approach, I like to just let the girl know up front, like, why I'm here. I'm not trying to get fucking money from you. I'm not blah, blah, blah. Then after that, we work on the convo, tonality, obviously. Sometimes guys, they'll get conversation anxiety where they can actually do the opener to a decent degree, but they more get anxiety as the conversation goes on, because they're like, oh, she's going to find me out, or, oh, I don't know if I can maintain this, and all this other stuff. So I listen to the overall tonality of it, the content, which basically what you actually talk about doesn't really matter that much. As long as it's not like some crazy off the wall shit, you can kind of talk about whatever. But sometimes I have to change what the guy talks about, or even a lot of times I'll have to simplify it, because guys are trying to do, well, I have to do push pull and spike her emotions, I have to do also blah blah blah. That's fine to do those things, but you first have to have a baseline of just being able to have a normal conversation. You can't go from unconfident and shitty social skills to being super confident, charismatic. You have to go from negative to neutral. I can just have a normal conversation, and then you can start implementing all the more positive, confident, blah, blah, blah things. God damn it, fucking getting notifications. And then the length. So I've seen it both ways, where a guy will purposely make the conversation a lot shorter because of anxiety, and they just can't stand the tension inside themselves from just continuing to talk. And then I've seen guys who they will keep a conversation going really long, also out of anxiety, because they're waiting for the right moment, like, oh, when do I ask for the number, and blah, blah, blah. Oh, well, I don't know. She looked away and up and to the right for 0.2 seconds, so isn't that an indicator of disinterest, and blah, blah, blah. So if their conversation is too short or too long, I'll let them know. And then this last one's kind of nebulous, overall vibe. Just some things that I'll pick up on where I'm like, okay, have you noticed you do this? Okay, why do you think you do that? And then usually it comes down to some belief or mindset that is not conducive to approaching. And then, once the conversation's done, getting the number, direct, indirect, basically means like, do you just basically ask for the number, like actually do the thing you want to do and do it confidently? Or are you like, yeah, so I was thinking that maybe we could hang out sometime if you're cool. Like, if you're cool with that, like, would you be down for that? No, you want to be direct. And then, yeah, certainty, confidence, meaning just how you ask for it. Let's see. And then this next one is beliefs. So beliefs is actually a thing that we're always constantly working on, basically throughout the whole coaching. What I've found is that the things that really hold guys back, it's not necessarily, well, they can't approach, or, oh, I have approach anxiety, or I don't, blah, 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 whatever. That's the surface level reason. But usually when you go a whole bunch of layers down, you ask them, okay, well, why do you have anxiety? Well, I just feel like they're not going to like me. Okay, why do you think they're not going to like me? Because of this and blah, blah, blah. And you get down to like core beliefs. And what I've found is that those deeply held mindsets and like core beliefs you have about yourself and other people and the world in general, those are the things that are actually holding guys back for the large majority of this whole process. But kind of the lingo and the terminology we have when it comes to anything approaching or pickup related, it's all surface level stuff. So like a guy might have like a deep sense of like lack of worth for whatever reason. Maybe something happened to him previously in life or his childhood or something like that. And then that will, affect things. And then several layers up, it manifests in anxiety. So a guy will think, oh, I have approach anxiety, and try to work on that surface level thing. But no, the reason you have the approach anxiety is because of some belief way down. And my goal with a lot of this coaching is to eventually, it's a process, but eventually get down to the point to where you change those beliefs and mindsets about yourself and other people and just everything. I guess reality in general, you could say. And I just put a couple of the beliefs here, like approaching is weird, she won't like me, people are going to look or they're going to judge. Other different low value beliefs like, oh, I'm just inherently not likable, blah, blah, blah. And then texting. Texting is pretty straightforward, honestly. I have all my clients just follow my post of my texting guide. It's pretty basic. Pretty much every guy who I coach uses that, and it works totally fine. But sometimes there are some things, guys will send me screenshots of their conversations, and sometimes they'll have too much conversation, and they'll kind of beat around the bush and do all this stuff before actually trying to set up the date. Another common one is they're too nice or too excited, using a fuckload of emojis and exclamation points and wow, that sounds great. Oh my God, that's freaking amazing. Like I usually try to keep that to a minimum. And then the last one is actually setting up the date. Like with approaching and all that other stuff, the directness you have. So just, do you actually fucking try to set up the date, or are you being all like, well, I think I would try to play all cool alpha. Oh, I think I might be open to giving you a chance to go on a date. Or I was thinking maybe I'm not doing anything this weekend. Would you possibly be down to blah, blah, blah? No, just do the fucking thing. Front loading / rushing. That's another thing that happens with texting, in addition to like on the opener, where a guy will be like, let's see. So let's say something like, hey, so, I actually wanted to grab a drink with you, and I'm free this Saturday at this time at blah, blah, blah. Are you free then, or should we do another? Like, all this stuff. You want to kind of go step by step, just like, oh, what do you have going on this weekend? Blah, 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 whatever. We should grab a drink. Are you free? What days are you free, or whatever? And you want to take it step by step. If you front load it, again, it shows anxiety because you can't deal with the tension of waiting for the responses. It's just too much information to give the girl up front. And then there's a holding frame. So holding frame is basically like sometimes the girl will try to switch the location, or she'll say, no, I want to go here and blah, blah, blah. I'm actually going to make a post about holding frame through text when you're setting up the date. I have a client who... this girl literally over the course of like 2 days kept trying to change the time and the location and, oh, this doesn't work and blah, blah, blah. And he stood firm like, no, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. And then she came out and she ended up hooking up with him. So it's just a really good example. She fucking put up every possible fucking barrier, but then eventually she still did come out under his terms and then ended up hooking up. Let's see. So then the date, I kind of have I think I have 2 different posts on how to run a date. We first focus on like the objective metrics, like things that I would actually be able to maybe hear on a recording or just actions you take. And then eventually, if those aren't sufficient, then we kind of get into like beliefs and all this other stuff. It's a pretty fucking in-depth conversation. So it's usually break the touch barrier, start out asking them what they're doing, what they did today or what they did that week or since you last saw them or whatever. And I always start out with kind of having a lighthearted, funny, like alpha cocky kind of thing, just like messing around, teasing, and then get into comfort. And I have a post on how to build comfort and rapport and all that other bullshit. And then after comfort, you want to kind of bring it back out to, funny, playful, all this other stuff. Not to say that you can't go straight from comfort and talking about deep topics to going for a pull, but it's usually better to kind of take it out of there and have a fun, playful vibe again, 5-10 minutes, whatever, and then go for the pull. And then here I have for going for the pull. You want to go for the pull every single time. The amount of guys who they'll only go for the pull 30% of the time. Well, I didn't think that I didn't do this enough, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, now you'll never fucking know because now you've not seen her again. So you go for the pull every time. Go for the pull after roughly an hour. It doesn't have to be exactly an hour. It could go up to maybe an hour and a half. But I put that there because it's usually better to pull a little early than take 3 hours and now the girl's bored and now she's like, okay, what the fuck's going on? You're going to lose a lot more girls going too slow than too fast. And then how you go for the pull, you can just do the typical, hey, you want to head out? And then once you're actually outside the place, you find some reason to bring her back to your place. You could say, yeah, hey, do you want to watch a movie? Or I was actually going to watch blah, blah, blah. Do you want to watch it with me for a little bit? Or say something like you were finishing up a series on Netflix or something. You want to watch an episode or something. Or something unique. So if you have a place that has a really nice view, like a balcony or something, or you have some cool gamer activity back at your place, you can use that too. What you say for the pull doesn't matter too much because if the girl likes you, then she kind of knows that that's not the real reason you're going back, and it's just an excuse to get her back there. But that's fine, because she wants you to kind of lie about that, because if she wants to sleep with you and you just say, hey, you want to go back and fuck, then she's going to feel like a slut. She's going to blah, blah, blah. Her defenses are going to be up, and she is not going to want to go back with you. By having a little bit of an excuse, that makes her feel good. Like, okay, cool. This guy gets it. Like, he understands, like have a good reason, like kind of keep the flow going and all that other stuff. False pullback is basically, I've done this a couple of times, where you go out. So you say, hey, you want to head out? And then when you're outside of the place, be like, all right, well, I had a good time. Like, you pretend like the date's over. And then you be like, yeah, what do you got going on the rest of the night? Oh, I'm freaking blah, blah, blah. And then you say, well, I was actually going to watch blah, 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 a movie or Netflix show or something like that. Like, do you want to join me for a little bit? So it's kind of like, I'm not sure if that actually increases pull rate or anything like that. It's just a thing I've done a couple times. Yeah, I don't really do it anymore because I'm not sure that it's necessary, but it's fun to do sometimes. Kind of gives you a little bit of that feeling of power. It's like, yeah, now you're wondering if fucking I like you, you know? Let's see. And then escalation back at your place. You know, go in there, have a little bit of a convo, give a tour of the place, blah, blah. Here's the bathroom. Here's the bed I'm going to fuck you in a little bit, blah, blah, blah. You know, don't say that. But, you know, and then you do put on the movie or the unique thing you said. Go into a touching position, which is like when you're watching the movie, you don't want to be standing or sitting like apart. Because what a lot of guys do is they will start the movie sitting, not touching, and then when the guy wants to escalate, now he has to go over in the middle, and fucking it's kind of awkward. So I just started out where, you know, you're touching the girl, you have her legs over your legs or something like that, and you watch the movie. And then when you start to escalate, it's just completely natural. You don't have to like reach over or do this kind of unnatural thing. And then basically, you know, start the escalation in whatever way you want. I usually, I say, hey, why aren't we kissing? So me and the girl will be talking at some point during the movie. And then at any point, I'll just like look at her and just be like, hey, why aren't we kissing? The girl's usually like, oh, I don't know. And then you go in for the kiss. This is such a consistent, like that one line is so fucking good for escalating in any situation when you kind of feel awkward or you don't have a smooth way to do it. I've had a bunch of clients do it. I've had a lot of guys that just message me out of nowhere and be like, dude, I used that line. It was so easy and we fucking hooked up and blah, blah, blah. Like, that's one of the few lines where I'm like, yeah, use that line. It's so fucking awesome. And then general escalation flow, like how to escalate, blah, 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 engage, disengage, how to deal with last minute resistance. I won't go super hardcore into that. But yeah, this is basically all the stuff that, you know, this is all the stuff that I focus on in my coaching. We take it step by step, you know. Usually it takes guys about 6 weeks to finish the approach anxiety program. And then after approaching, it probably takes, you know, maybe 2 or 3 weeks after the approach program to where they are fairly confidently approaching and it's kind of just ingrained in them and they're just super comfortable with it. Then they start generating dates. Usually they'll start getting numbers pretty quickly, and then they'll start generating dates. And then once they are consistently generating dates, now they can start using each date as an opportunity to obviously not only pull the girl and hook up, but work on, you know, how to run a date well. The good thing about approaching is that you can always constantly work on it no matter what, because you can approach at any time. The hard thing about dates, improving that, is that you have to actually get a girl on a date. But once you're consistently generating them and you know you're always going to have more and you're not in this very scarcity mindset, then it's easy to just go on them, you know, one to 3 a week or something like that. And depending on your approach volume. And yeah, just kind of slowly work on getting better at those. And then, then escalation, you know, obviously I can't have any recordings or knowledge of how it goes. I just have to go based on what the guy tells me. He's usually like, yeah, this happened, blah, blah, blah. And then she didn't hook up. And then I'll be like, oh, okay, actually you should have done this here and blah, blah, blah. We can kind of troubleshoot. So yeah, this whole process usually takes around 3 months. I think the longest anyone has taken to get their first cold approach lay is 4 months. But usually going through all this whole process, it usually takes around 3 months for the guy to generate his first cold approach lay. And usually after that first one, it's just pretty consistent from that point onward. Obviously, you can kind of improve your percentages a little bit doing different things or whatever. But yeah, usually to get the first one, it's around 3 months, depending on the guy. And yeah, that's about it. I still, as of yet, have not had a single guy that I've coached. Shut the fuck up, phone. I have not had a single guy who I've coached who didn't quit, okay? Because I'd say like 30-40% of clients that I have, they quit at some point or for whatever fucking reason. And actually, a lot of them, they'll quit right at the fucking beginning. Like, they'll pay for a month of coaching, and then a week into it, they'll be like, I don't want to do this. I'm like, okay, dude. But of the ones that did not quit, okay, I have not yet had a single guy who I was not able to get him his first cold approach lay. And the longest guy took 4 months. Usually most guys, it's around the 3 month mark, give or take. So yeah, that is it. If you're interested, you want to do like a free little introductory call, or just, find out, what your problems are and how maybe I can help you, and maybe ask whatever questions you have. I do free coaching calls, like free intro calls. And yeah, I'll put contact info, in the description and all that. And you can also check out a lot of my other content on the subreddit Vagabond Dating. And yeah, that is it.